The NonStop Radio Show.
Non-stop hip-hop.
The hottest underground hip-hop and R&B show on this side of the net.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the show. Once again, it's your boy EMillio EgBar. And I would like to say thank you to each and every one of you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to tune into tonight's presentation as EJP Entertainment Presents the Artist Spotlight. You already know what it is. We at the point of our show where we are joined by tonight's special guest. But before we do so, ladies and gentlemen, please make sure you go follow us on IG at EJP_Entertainment to stay up to date with everything related. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the show. Once again, it's your boy EMillio EgBar. And I would like to say thank you to each of you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to tune in yet to another presentation of this show. And if you haven't done so yet, please make sure you head over to IG and be sure to follow us at EJP_Entertainment. Or you can also check out the visual side of this platform by heading over to our YouTube channel at EJP Entertainment. Be sure to like, subscribe, share the videos, and hit that notification bell to stay alerted when we are dropping brand new content for all of y'all out there to watch and enjoy. But with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, you know we are at the point of our show where we are now joined by today's special guest. And here on the line, we have a uprising young artist. This artist right here is pretty dope, man. I just got finished listening to one of his songs called Morning, and I like this song. I'm not gonna lie to you. You know, I don't really like a whole lot of music, but when I tell you and I'm gloating about something or I'm raving about a song that I just listened to and that I actually like, then you know it's a pretty good song. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, please help me to welcome to the show Khan. How you doing, man? Welcome.
I'm good, man. It's good to be on the show. I appreciate you having me.
Thank you. We appreciate you as well for taking the time out to be here. We do appreciate your presence here today, and we're looking forward to getting to know you. And with that said, we normally like to give this part of the show to the artists to give them a chance to kind of, you know, introduce themselves to our audience and tell them a little bit about themselves. So if you would, man, the floor is all yours.
Yeah, man. My name's Khan. I'm based out of Dallas, Fort Worth. I started making music in high school for fun, and then over the last 2-3 years, it really got serious for me. So I put out this new project called Focus. It's out on all platforms. So yeah, I mean, there's not much to me. I'm just a normal guy. I'm just trying to make my music, and hopefully people hear my message as I send it out.
Now, when it comes to a message, you know, I'm pretty sure everybody out there, you know, that's listening right now, you know, artists or even as an individual, you know, every one of us, you know, when it comes to being inspiration to others, has some sort of message. So with that being said, like, what would you say your message is?
Yeah, man, my message is just to let people know that they're not alone, you know? There's bad things in this world that everyone goes through, and, you know, no matter what's going on, even if I don't know you, I'd rather you be here on Earth than not. So that's my main message.
I like that, and I can tell kind of, you know, by, you know, listening to you just now and you giving that, you know, explanation of what your message is, that you know, you've experienced some things in your own life as well, man. So, you know, I definitely do appreciate that message, because you do have a lot of people out there that's going through things. A lot of people feel as though that they got to suffer through things alone in life and not realizing that, you know, there is some kind of outreach, there is some kind of support system out there. Only thing is, you just got to be willing to go out there and find it. You can't always just, you know, think that, you know, you're totally alone in the struggles and stuff that you endure in life.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, I struggled with suicidal thoughts and substance abuse all growing up. And, you know, it took me a long time to find out what my purpose was. And sure enough, it was music. But, you know, it took years for me to really find my place in this world and realize that I have a purpose. I'm not alone, you know, and I'm just grateful for that. And I hope that my music can send a message to someone, just let them know there's something out there for them, you know?
Absolutely, man. And I agree with you, man. And I want to say thank you to you, you know, for overcoming, you know, your struggles as well. Because, you know, suicidal thoughts is something that a lot of people deal with, you know, and there's no, you know, what can I say? There's no shame in acknowledging the fact that, you know, some people along the line at one point in time have contemplated suicidal thoughts. You know, even myself included, I will say, you know, I've contemplated those a few times, you know, in the past, but was able to overcome them. And then I have friends, unfortunately, that did not overcome their suicidal thoughts and everything like that. So, you know, I do appreciate that, and I'm definitely delighted to be here having this conversation with you here today. So with that being said, like, what started your musical journey? Like, how long have you been making music?
Yeah, man, I really started in high school. I went to a school in Dallas. It's called Booker T. Washington High School for the Performing and Visual Arts. It's a pretty cool school. If you haven't heard of it, check it out. Erykah Badu went there, Nora Jones, some decent names came out of there. But I actually originally went for theater, believe it or not. And so I became friends with all the music kids and just sort of developed my love for music through hanging out with them, making, you know, scrap songs in the crummy school studio that they had, because, you know, they weren't really focused on recording artists. They were focusing on opera and classical music and jazz. So, you know, the studio wasn't their main investment. I'm sure it is now, actually, because it's become a big part of their program. But yeah, so as far as music getting started, it was really back in high school. And then I graduated. I went to New York to pursue acting for about 6 months, and it didn't work out. I just got anxious being in New York and not really having, you know, my peoples there. And so I came back home and was just kind of goofing around in my studio, my home studio setup. I had a little blue microphone and a Focusrite 2i2. So it was nothing major, but it was small. And you know, I just really found a lot of peace in those first few songs I made when I came back, and I realized, like, I just can't live without it. So I made the choice then and there to, you know, really pursue it and make it my passion, my goal in life.
Well, few things, you know, I want to say shout out to Booker T. Washington, and I'm glad that they're starting to take it serious as far as recording artists are concerned, because, you know, Erykah Badu coming from there, that's huge. And then, you know, you got yourself, you know, a young artist that's on the rise as well. And I really do see, you know, you actually making a really good name for yourself in this music industry. And I definitely, you know, like the music that I've heard from you so far, man. So I definitely see you going, you know, places in this whole music industry. And then another thing, man, you know, coming out here east, you know, coming here to New York and everything like that, I know it can be a different monster from people that, you know, coming here and experience it for the first time, man. So, like, what was your experience really like here?
Man, it was tough, you know, and so my senior year, I was really struggling with substance abuse, and I tried dealing with it, but I really never, like, committed to making a change. So when I got up to New York, I just kind of fell in with, you know, I wouldn't say the wrong crowd, because they're all good people. They just, you know, we're living a lifestyle that I wasn't able to manage myself. So, you know, that was really a big part of it for me that kind of ruined my experience. But I'm also a high anxiety type of person, so New York's really fast. There's a lot of people around. So I sort of got paranoid there for a little bit too, you know, just kind of looking over my shoulder all the time, which is, you know, I'm not going to say don't do that. Don't be like watching your back, but you can't live in fear, you know? And that's sort of where I was. That's where I was when I was living up there.
So with that being said, you know, going back home to Dallas and everything, and definitely want to say shout out to Dallas, because we are, you know, affiliated with a station out there called Kawan J Radio. Shout out to my man DJ Kawan and all that. So, you know, being back in Dallas, you was able to find yourself a little bit more so with your music, and, you know, you had a humble beginning, like you said. You know, you started off with a blue microphone and the Focusrite 2i2. I actually had one of those myself, by the way, as well. So, you know, with that being said, being back more comfortable in your surroundings, was that able to help you push further along with your music? Or was that something that after a while you had to deal with your own personal struggles before you able to really, like, you know, get your feet planted in your own craft and start going forward with that?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think they kind of went hand in hand. So the real reason I was able to overcome my struggles and, you know, my substance abuse, I still deal with, you know, depression and the occasional suicidal thoughts, which, you know, it doesn't just go away, but there's a way of managing it and having expectations in life that, you know, don't let you down all the time. And so I had to learn my way of managing my life, and music was a really good way to like escape, I guess, because whenever, you know, when you're fixing yourself, you can get overwhelmed really quickly. Things can come back to light that you didn't really you haven't thought about in a long time. So yeah, music was definitely an outlet that helped me. I definitely wouldn't have been able to do it without the music. And I mean, and on my project, you'll hear a lot of my struggles through the songs. And those are some of the songs that I was writing when I got back.
Mm-hmm. And you know, it's good that we're having this conversation, because we just had this conversation with another artist prior to, you know, this discussion, and they said the same thing. You know, they was battling with a lot of their own mental illness and a lot of their own, you know, mental health issues that they was experiencing through, you know, traumatic experiences that happened throughout their life, and they found their outlet in music. And that's one thing I do love about music so much, is the fact that, you know, it can be therapeutic for people, whether you make the music yourself or you listen to the music. It can be very therapeutic, and I feel like a lot of people find refuge when they're going through things in life, to just go and just listen to a song, one of their favorite songs that are uplifting, and it can change the whole outlook of their day. Like listening to your song just a minute ago, Morning. Like, I ain't gonna lie to you, I started off this morning, you know, kind of off to a little bit of a rough start, and then listening to your single, it kind of like boosted up my spirits as well. So, you know, I do appreciate that, man. So was that your intentions when you started making music, was to help boost people's, you know, day or whatever?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, when I first started, it definitely was that. It was just kind of fun, lift spirits. And then as time went on, as I was addressing my problems, I don't think you've heard the full project yet, but if you get a chance to listen to it, you'll hear some of the more darker material, just in terms of how direct I approach my own problems. And those songs, they're not meant to bring anyone down. Like, I'm not trying to ruin a vibe or anything, but I am on those messages, I'm trying to get across that, you know, there are people out there that go through the same struggles, you know, and just give a song a listen, or go create something, and you'll be okay. Like, there's nothing wrong with being sad. There's nothing wrong with being depressed. It happens to the best of us, and it's just a matter of getting through it.
Absolutely. And, you know, that's one thing also, you know, a lot of people kind of mistaken, you know, they think that, you know, music always has a negative message. Some songs, not necessarily, you know. Like, I've found, you know, in my whole journey throughout this whole music industry, and, you know, being around music myself, I see that, you know, a lot of people tend to gravitate towards the songs that they can relate to when it comes to like various things that's going on in their life as well. So, you know, a lot of people, you may like have the perception of, you know, it may feel like a little bit dark because it's you know, kind of displaying your own, you know, experiences, and, you know, opening yourself up to people to hear, you know, some of the things that you went through. But you'll be surprised to find out that there's so many people out there that can relate to your same story, and whatever the case may be, and will gravitate to your music. Have you had anybody done that with you lately?
Yeah, absolutely. I've had a couple people reach out to me about a song called Pharmacide. That song is a really interesting story. I was diagnosed bipolar when I was 18. And so I was on medication for about 2 years, and it wasn't doing me right. I wasn't feeling okay. So I was trying to get off of it, and I was having some like dissociation and just really not being present. So I took it upon myself to write a song about it. And, you know, the song is sort of a narrative between me and my inner self that, you know, that is a diagnosis of bipolar, but that's still part of me. So I'm having this inner dialogue with him, he's basically saying, don't kill me, because I'm still part of you.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
So that was a big, yeah. So you can go ahead.
No. I wasn't trying to cut you off. I was just responding to like what you had just said just now.
Oh yeah, for sure. So yeah, I mean, I've had a couple people reach out to me on that standpoint, between, you know, them getting off of their medication and trying to be more of who they are, or if they're dealing with substance abuse as well. There's some of that in there as well. So yeah, I've had quite a few people reach out to me on, hey, the song is great, I really relate with it, thank you for putting it out. So that keeps me going for sure.
That's good. That's good to hear. Now, let me ask you a question. This is a stigma that, my years of working in the, mental health, field, as far as, my personal thing, what I do outside of, music and radio and stuff like that. I've dealt with a lot of people that, were suffering, unfortunately, from mental illnesses and stuff like that. And a lot of them, was placed on medication or having to take medications in order to help them deal with whatever condition that they was going through at that present moment. Now, a lot of them would say, like, the medicine, it helps to a degree, but they don't really like the medicine that much as well. Do you really feel as though like they kind of like, like overhype medicine when it comes to dealing with mental illnesses or mental health issues?
Absolutely. I think medicine in general is overhyped. I think any time big pharma can make $1 off of something that people are scared about, they'll try. So yeah, I don't think there's medicine to solve everything. Therapy has helped me a lot, just talking with people and figuring out my own thought processes and figuring out how my brain works as opposed to how, I'm not going to say a normal person's brain, but an ordinary person's brain works. It's just different, and I got to deal with it in a different way. I gotta know which voice to listen to and which voice to drown out, or so there's definitely a lot to it. I'm not going to say medicine isn't for everybody. There are definitely some things, like there are some chemical depressions that need medicine to correct the imbalances in your brain, and there's a lot of science behind that, but there's also a lot of lacking science behind mental illness and all these different drugs that are prescribed.
I absolutely agree with you, and it's very interesting, that whole point of what you just said, because even though it's a fictional movie, but it is kind of like based on reality. The recent movie, I'm not sure if you've seen it or not, but the Joker movie that just came out.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, like I was watching that movie just recently, a couple of days ago, and he was having the same issue as well. Like, they kept him on all these medications, and then he started finally feeling like he was becoming himself once he stopped taking his medication. And when it comes down to it, like you said, a lot of people, yes, some of them will need it. Some things just, you just happen to have to use the medication to help you through it. But there's other ways, like you just mentioned earlier, like just simple methods of just like, talking to people, and just figuring out your own, thought process and the way your brain works and stuff like that. So I do agree with that, because even when I was growing up, I had my own issues with, being an angry child all the time, and one of the things they always wanted to do was put me on antidepressants, and I'm like, I don't want to go that route, because I know, even though I don't have a full understanding of what it does, but I know that antidepressants doesn't sound like something I want to be on. So like, I do agree with you with that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also want to mention about talking to people. There's also a responsibility on the person who is sick to not rely on their loved ones, because that can also be a really taxing toll on them. Because with me and my girlfriend, there was a point in time where we were having troubles with, my mental health, and I was talking to her. I wasn't going to therapy. I was just talking to her, and at a certain point in time, it became sort of like she was my caretaker as opposed to being my girlfriend, and that was a huge thing that we had to overcome as well, is figuring out what the right way to deal with all of this is. Because talking was the way to get through it, but I needed to be talking to someone who was trained and taught how to talk to me, and not just a friend who, they don't have the education to deal with all of the traumas that I have. That's not their job,
I agree. And that is very true. When it comes down to it, it can be very taxing on loved ones, especially those who are not accustomed to dealing with it, especially people that may be new to your life and you may have formed a relationship with them. It is good, you know. And one of the biggest stigmas also, not only in the African American community, but just in people overall in everybody's community, is, you know, going to therapy and seeking help professionally to speak to somebody when, you know, they're going through certain, you know, issues in life that they can't, you know, find that outlet in talking to people that's, you know, within their family and stuff like that. So, you know, that's one of the things a lot of people, I guess they need to, like, you know, understand that it's not a sign of weakness. It's not a thing or a bad thing or whatever if you have to go to therapy in order to, you know, help you with a situation that you're trying to overcome. Do you agree?
Absolutely, yeah, and I definitely think we need to address that with our older generations too. That's definitely something that I've done with my parents, because growing up, both my parents are Irish, and my dad's dad came from Ireland, and his mom was from Norway, so they had foreign customs, and you know, the Irish traditions is just shut up, you know, don't talk about it. It's nothing to worry about, and that was something that I had to figure out on my own, and that was something that I brought to my family. And now, I mean, pretty much all of us, we have a therapist that we talk to, that we are friends with, that we like, and, you know, and it's helped all of us immensely. All of our relationships are healthier, our bonds are stronger. So absolutely, I think therapy is a great way to go.
I agree. And that's another thing that you pointed out too, that is very true. You know, a lot of the older generation, they think that internalizing things is a better approach to dealing with their issues other than talking it out. You know, I have conversations with people that are near and dear to me and close to me as well, that think that internalizing every situation is the best way to go. And I don't fault them from that. You know, a lot of people, that's just the way they was raised. That's the way they was, you know, brought up. But as we getting older, you got to realize, you know, when you internalize things, it causes more to your physical health. It causes more damage than it does in just, you know, letting it out and not carrying around that burden, so to speak. So that's one thing, another mystique when it comes to, like, you know, mental health that we do need to tackle as well, I feel as though.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, man. So, you know, with your album Focus, was you the sole person that worked on this, or did you have help, like, collaboratively or working with other producers and things?
Yeah, so there's one song, it's called Too Far. That was with a producer called Lil Mexico. That was a co-production with him and my personal producer, Lee Miles. But every other song on there is just me and my producer, Lee Miles. We sat in a studio and just cranked it all out. There's an engineer on there. His name's Cal, man, what's his last name? Varghese, I think. And he's great. He's a wizard. I mean, whenever I think of mixing, I don't think of an artist. I think of a scientist, because they're hearing things that just the normal ear can't hear. I can't even hear it, and I'm musically inclined. So yeah, between Lee Miles and Tal, those two guys, and then that's pretty much it. There's a couple of guitar solos from Rod Castro. I don't know if you know him. He did a couple of solos for, I think it was Beyonce's last album.
Okay.
But he's talented as well. There's a feature from E.G. Daily, which is really funny story. But she voices Tommy Pickles, and she was Dottie in the Pee Wee Herman movie.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, so she just had this big 80s voice that we needed for a song, and my producer happened to know her on a personal level, and, you know, she showed out and helped us out. So,
oh, wow,
yeah, but other than that, I mean, yeah, it was really cool. And she's a great woman. She's super talented, super down to earth, super wholesome. So,
man, I actually grew up watching Pee Wee Herman and, you know, watching the Rugrats and stuff like that. So that's cool to hear somebody was able to work with these, you know, individuals that, you know, was a major part of my childhood growing up. That's real dope and all that, man. But with that being said,
she was.
Go ahead.
She was a major part of my childhood too. So it was great for me too, just to meet her and see her work.
Was you starstruck when you met her?
Not really.
Okay.
It's hard for me to get starstruck. I sort of like, I wall up when I get nervous. I was definitely nervous. So, but it was more of, I turned it into a professional moment instead of a fandom moment.
Okay, I got you. Now, let me ask you, like, you may mention earlier that, you had your own home studio set up, and now you kind of like, elevated to working in studios. Do you still find comfort in working in your own surroundings, or do you like the studio environment and working with other people?
Yeah, man, I love being in my studio. I find it hard to write a song outside of my studio.
Mm-hmm.
But when I'm really recording the master tracks, I like to be in a full blown studio to get the feels, that professional vibe. Because when I'm writing the song, it's really me. It's only me. And whenever we're recording and the science is getting put behind it, making the frequencies right, getting the tone just crisp and sounding good together. I like having that big full feel. So
I understand that. My fault. Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. You're good.
Okay, my fault. I didn't mean to cut you off. I was just saying, like, yeah, I understand that. Like, I've been in a few, big studios before. It's cool to be in and around the environment, but when it comes down to it, like, to me, and I know this is kind of subjective when it comes to it, but everybody has their own preferences. But to me, I prefer the home studio approach, because I can work at my own pace. I can do what I want to do, and I can feel comfortable in my own environment. I don't have to feel like I'm on edge every time when I'm in the studio with somebody else or in somebody else's space, like, because I can do what I pretty much want. So I agree with you.
Yeah, and I do feel the same way. I will mention that in terms of prepping for recording, there's a lot of it that goes into it. So, I mean, if I'm recording a song, if I'm going into a professional studio, I should be able to knock it out between 30 minutes and an hour, because that's how much I've worked on it in my home studio. I know every in and out of the song. So, yeah, I definitely feel that, because if you go into a big professional studio and you're paying $100 an hour and you're not ready, you don't have the songs really fully down, like, you're just kind of wasting time, and you're gonna feel that when you're recording. You'll hear it too. You'll hear it in your vocal, that nervousness. So that is definitely something to think about if you're getting into music and want to put more of a budget towards your music.
I agree. And I tell people that all the time, and then when you look back, a lot of things that happened during COVID, you had a lot of people that wasn't able to get into the studio and everything. And, so they was kind of like, isolated. They wasn't able to work on their music. And you can see the people that really, actually, invested their time wisely and invested their resources wisely and was able to go get a home studio, because you had a lot of people that were still putting out pretty good music, but they didn't have to worry about going to the studio and not being able to, get out there and be able to do what it is that they got to do as an artist. So I always tell artists all the time, I'm like, and this is even speaking from experience, when I used to have a lot of studio sessions canceled on me, out of the blue, and I've already, was getting set to pay my money, or I've already paid my money or whatever, and the studio session ended up getting canceled. It's always best to invest in your own self when it comes to making music, because then you can control your own destiny pretty much when it comes to how much music you put out or how much you work, or, being able to be prepared when you do have those moments when you go to a studio.
Absolutely, and especially nowadays with the technology that's available to the everyday consumer. I mean, I've got an Apollo Twin, I've got my Yamaha speakers, I've got a Neumann TLM 103. So, I mean, my studio's pretty much industry standard. It's just, it doesn't look fancy. It's just, normal desk setup, normal computer. But, I mean, I can make anything that anyone else can in a big Hollywood studio. It's just a matter of putting the time in and figuring out what the process is. And, that takes learning. That's not something that I've figured out fully. I can't make a big, massive production yet. I'm still working on it, but that's something I've learned, and it takes time. That's something I'm learning from my producer how to do. And if you can find people who can teach you, go for it, because yeah, like you said, being able to record at home, and if you're able to make a movie quality song at home, then what's the point of paying $100 an hour for a studio session when you can just pay $8 an hour for the electricity bill, you know?
I absolutely agree. And, you know, when it comes down to it, a lot of well-known artists, a lot of people's favorite artists and favorite songs, believe it or not, were cut in home studios, and, you know, just people, you know, just putting together their own stuff and doing what they do at home as opposed to going to like a big studio, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, man. So, you know, with this year getting, you know, really too much into, you know, full form or whatever, we starting to really hit into the summer months and, you know, the spring months and all that stuff. What can we expect from you going forward? You know, you have your album out, Focus, which is out there right now for people that would like to check it out. So what else are we expecting from you?
Yeah, so I'm working on a music video for Morning as well. It's going to be a playful vibe, sort of just a nerdy kid chasing after a girl. But I think that's going to be good for the summer. And then I'm working on one more for my title track, Focus. We need a little bit more of a bigger budget for that, so we're reaching out to investors and angels trying to get some money for that. And then I'm also in talks with promoters, getting some local shows going in Dallas. So if any of your viewers are in Dallas, keep your eyes open for shows coming up.
Absolutely, man. And for the people out there that are looking to, you know, listen to more of your music, looking to reach out to you and looking to connect with you, how can they do that?
Yeah, music's on all platforms. My name is Khan. The album's called Focus. There's a couple Khans on Apple Music and Spotify, but it's the little blonde kid in the picture. You'll see him. He's the only one. And then for social media, I really only use Instagram right now. We're working on getting the Twitter out, getting the content guy for funny tweets and stuff that I'm not real great at. But my Instagram is theofficialkhan, C-O-N. And you can reach out to me there. I'm always checking my DMs for any requests, any DMs. So if you ever want to reach out, go for it. If you just want to talk, if you are going through something and, you know, don't want to feel alone, I'm more than willing to talk to you. I'll put whatever I'm doing down, and I'll make sure that you stay here, because like I said earlier, no matter what you've done, no matter what's going on, I'd rather you be here on earth than not.
Absolutely. And the old saying goes, I would rather listen to your story than attend your funeral. I truly wholeheartedly agree with you on that one, man. And with that being said, Khan, we do appreciate you once again for taking the time out to be here. This was a very, very needed discussion. Very good conversation, man. I enjoyed every moment with you, man. And before we get ready to close things out, is there any last thing you would like to say to anybody? Any shout outs or anything?
Yeah, just shout out my producer, Lee Miles. He's got an album coming out, so if you guys want to check that out, go for it. He's a really talented guy, and I owe pretty much everything to him. So thank you, Lee Miles.
No doubt. And for everybody else out there, keep it locked and stay tuned. We're coming back with much more right after this.
Good morning, it's nice to meet you. Your man hurt you, well tell me what did he do? I'll be right here for you, to make it clear for you. I'll wait around, be your fourth or your fifth for you. I'm waiting for you to come to your senses, till I'm the one you'll run into. My feelings for you, revealing the truth, that everything will be alright as soon as I am with you. Good morning, it's so nice to see you. Your man's hurt you, well tell me what you've been through. I'm still here for you, to make it clear for you. I'll wait around, be your fifth or your sixth for you. I'm waiting for you to come to your senses, 'cause I'm the one you're crying to. My feelings for you, revealing the truth, that nothing's gonna change till I become the man for you. Since the first day I remembered your name, I knew I had to wait a minute till you felt the same. You said that you was taken by your fiancé. I said, tell me what I gotta do to make that change. We vibe just like your favorite toy. Deep dive into you, make a noise. Like, ooh, you move too smooth. Don't stop now, I'm coming soon. I ain't even telling you to leave your man today. I just wanted you to know that I don't like that you're in pain. If you get a minute, you thinking that I'm what's missing, go ahead and call my phone. I promise that I'ma say good morning. Been a minute since I seen you. I've been down every day, I go without you. But I'm here for you, to make it clear for you. I wait around till you find me for you. I wait around